Hi, welcome to Conversations for the Animals. I am Lisa Tynan with Houston Pet Set, and I am really excited to be joined today by a new friend, Miss Angelique Strickler. Is that right, Strickler?
Yes, Strickler.
And you are the founder of Waiting Under the Willow Foundation, and I am very much looking forward to hearing not only about your organization, which I think is wonderful, but also about how you got involved and how you started it. We were talking a little bit before we started recording about how so many people sort of sit and see the landscape of animal welfare and animal rescue and just become so overwhelmed by the problem, by the conditions, especially here in Houston, and say, somebody do something, or what can I do? And fortunately for all of us, there are people out there like you who say, well, I'm going to do something. And you just, buckle up and start going. So I want to talk a little bit about how you got started in animal rescue.
So that starts back as a child.
Okay.
I've always picked up any stray. Couldn't leave a dog, couldn't leave a cat. Always picked them up. So my mom never liked animals, which is really funny. She doesn't like the dog hair and the cat hair.
Sure.
And, thinks all dogs want to bite her. So it started like that, just always finding home for dogs in the neighborhood. And then as I got older, I was posting on Nextdoor a lot. And so a lot of the neighbors, well, they get used to seeing you. You're always picking up a dog off the street. I don't have a place for this dog. Can you help this dog?
You're the neighborhood lady that everybody goes
that's
to.
how it started. But then after, I guess back in 2018, or 2017, people started donating. They're like, well, I'll pay for the dog's vetting if you can take it to the vet. And so it kind of started like that. I would help with that. And then before you know it, it was 500 coming in a day, 1,000 coming in a day. And It's like, okay, I'm going to have to do more dogs in order to keep up because I don't need that much, So we'd pick up more dogs. And then people started offering, I'll take care of this dog. If you'll vet it for me, I'll foster it if you can find it a home. And so I started reaching out a little bit on Facebook, where I saw a dog posted that was going to be euthanized. It was a puppy. And I thought, oh, that's crazy. So I said, well, I'll foster it. I'll take it, And so a rescue saw me say that. And so they said, well, if you'll foster it, then I'll pay for the vetting. And so then, of course, someone sees you say you'll foster, and, all of a sudden you got 2,000 friends on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of how that started. And then I just started on my own, and it just grew. I mean, it just
was
took
really
off.
Organic, which I feel like is the experience of a lot of people in animal welfare, right? Very few people wake up, as a child and say, I am going to start my own. Actually, that's not true. I'm sure a lot of people say I'm going to start my own animal rescue, but you actually did it. And I want to talk also kind of about the actual step-by-step, because you are a 501c3.
Yep.
You are what we would consider a legitimate nonprofit animal rescue. And how many dogs do you have in your care?
We can never keep count. I literally have to go in there and count folders, but it varies between 50 and 75 right now.
And that is foster, and you have a facility.
And our facility, we try to keep it generally around 11, 10. Well, 10 dogs is what we prefer. And it's just because it's not that we don't have more room for another 5 dogs, but then it's less amount of time that they get out of their kennels because we're rotating between 2 yards and whatever volunteers are there to walk dogs.
I love that goes into your thought, where it's not just about the quantity. There's also quality being factored in there.
Yeah.
I feel like so many people think to themselves, if I would just take them all. But then you end up, you become the hoarder.
We get that. Yeah. Well, we get that all the time. It's very frustrating. I get anywhere from 10 to 30 calls just on my cell phone a day because I'm the smart person who put my phone out on Google.
Oops. That'll never end.
Yeah, and everybody, apparently no rescues do that. You can't call them.
Anybody.
It's email only, but I've never liked that. So I won't do it. I don't know what I'm going to do right now. I can't answer my phone enough, but I won't take it off. And it's my personal cell. It's not a...
Well, that means that you are reachable and you are the person. And now you are the founder. Do you have a team? Is it all volunteer based? Do you have staff?
No, I've got 2 other board members. Jennifer does our IT behind the scene type thing. She doesn't like to deal with the crazy
the public interface.
Yeah, all the crazy people that find dogs.
Yeah.
So she does the behind the scenes IT business stuff, and then Tammy Faith and I work really closely. I mean, we probably talk all day, every day, texts, phone calls. And then at our facility, we're in and out all day at our facility. So it's 7 days a week.
Oh, yeah.
Wake up with it, go to bed with it.
Now, this was not your first career, or this was sort of just something you fell into by choice. But how do you make that work, since this isn't your full-time thing?
It is.
It is?
It is now, and unfortunately, I don't get paid for it. So
Right.
I had to take a job. I had to quit the job I was working at and take a job that was part-time that would work with my schedule. So I ended up I had a friend that was working, he was a manager at Starbucks, and he's like, just come here. We can work whatever you want.
We're doing some brand
And I was
placement
like,
here today.
yeah, well, I was spending $300 a month on Starbucks. So that's like a car note right there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I thought, well, free coffee, get paid a little, and I can do what I want. So
Perfect.
right. So that's what I did. So I switched to Starbucks, and like now I have someone covering me so I could leave and come up here.
That's so fantastic.
And then I'll go back, work 2 hours, and then I hit our facility. And so then I'm up there.
So what was the process like when you decided, you started it organically, but then you decided, you know what, I'm going to make this an actual 501c3. Because I've worked in nonprofit for my entire career, but I've never started one. And it seems like it's complicated.
So one of the followers on Nextdoor, Eva, her and her husband, Mike, who I love, they're just couldn't do it without them.
There are those people, right, who hold us up.
Yeah. So she said, I'll pay for your 501 if you start it.
Wow.
So that's kind of where that started.
Okay. And if anyone who is listening or watching is one of those people who is a person of action and wants to follow in your footsteps, for example, what do you have to do? What's like the first step even?
Well, when I thought about it, because people would ask me, they donate on Nextdoor, and they're like, I'd like to donate more, but I'd like to be able to write it off.
Sure.
Can you become a 501? And I'm like, so I reached out to another rescue. I won't say who.
Sure.
And they're like, don't do it.
Really?
Don't do it. It's a lot of work. It'll suck up your life. My marriage almost, got ruined.
Wow.
And then I heard that from another 501, and I thought, wow.
Oh my.
And I thought, well, you're just not managing it right.
I could do this better, obviously.
Yeah, well, obviously not, because I went through the same relationship issues that were
man.
like, that's all you do. When you said you were going to do it, you said that, you'd balance it better. It's like,
Yeah.
but then you've got people who are sending you pictures of a dog, that's paralyzed from the waist down that was hit by a car. And they're like, I've called everybody. No one will help. And
Yeah.
it's like, the dog's still there.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'll come get it.
Yeah. I guess.
And then there you go again, because that's another 2-day job trying to find a foster for it,
Right.
trying to order what you need for the dog, whether it's a wheelchair, getting it into a vet, following up, making sure it has what it needs. So then it sucks up your time again.
Right.
So it's every day.
Right.
It's every day. So
And I don't know if I've never done any research about how to start it someplace else, but I'm assuming with Houston, you have to go and file paperwork. Do you have to prove that you've done something, that you have a certain amount of money coming in? I mean,
yeah.
is
Yeah.
this-
So I have an accountant. She's great. She does it as a tax write-off.
Oh, look
so
at
I
that.
don't pay for that. Then I have, you first have to become an organization with the state.
with the state. Okay.
So we do that first, get that done, and then you have to file with the federal government.
Okay.
So if you want to become tax exempt.
Okay.
So it's all a process. We used a company so that we had a lawyer that drew up all the
Sure.
papers, wrote it exactly the way it needed to be written, and it's about
Sure.
$1,200 for that.
Okay.
And then there's other fees here and there, but that's the big bulk of it.
And then your donors have sort of come to you again organically just by seeing that you're actually out there
Oh yeah.
doing the work. One of my favorite things, being in animal welfare for as long as we've been in it, people always say to if I won the lottery, I would just buy a big property and
Yeah, we
start
all-
my own rescue. But you don't have to win the lottery to do this.
No, you don't.
You
You
really
just have
don't.
to be out there enough, and it takes a while to build it. Tammy and I talked about it for a couple of years, where we looked at property and then we realized, oh my God, it's going to be like at least $1,700 a month between rent and bills. And so we were like, no, it made us too nervous to lock in for 2 years
Right.
and then not have the funds. So we backed out and decided not to do it. And then a year later, Tammy was out chasing a dog. And she goes, I got to show you this place. She goes, it's perfect. It'll be perfect. I was like, okay. So one day we went out there and she showed it to me, and it was vacant. It didn't show no information who owned it. We couldn't find it on the internet. And there was a sticker on the window that the city puts on there, you know, when anytime you have to have permits to build.
Sure.
So there was some construction. If you looked in the window, you could see all these boards and sheetrock and everything. And Timmy goes, but I can't find anyone that owns this. So I went and I looked on the sticker and it had a construction company. I said, well, I'll call the construction company and find out who they're working for. And so that was the owner of the property. He goes, how'd you find me? And I said, well, your sticker's on the window. He goes, I didn't want anybody to know I had this.
Oh.
Because then people start calling you all the time, and I wasn't ready to do anything with it. Anyway, so now he fosters for us too.
Oh my gosh. That is my favorite story. That is so funny.
He's got a mom and some puppies that we pulled out of a storm drain in Sunnyside.
I love that you sort of have just not lucked into all of this, but everything has just sort of arranged itself neatly for you to happen upon.
It has.
To become
it really
this.
has. Because we were nervous about the space. It was, you know, we're starting with 1,000 square feet. You know, we're looking at $1,650, $1,700 a month with bills and water and electricity, all that.
Sure.
And then, so now we're going to expand into the next unit in January.
Amazing.
So now it's like, okay, now that's going to double. So now we're worried again. You know, we're worried about the first space, and then it's like, oh, that was easy. You know, and so now we're going into the next, and now we're worried again. So
now, and you said that you just started this organization 2-3 years ago, right? So tell me, actually, now I'm backing up again. Where did the name come from? Waiting Under the Willow Foundation.
So another friend of mine with another rescue reached out. She was feeding some dogs over. See, it's like Orem, West Orem, South Post Oak area, another bad area, dogs everywhere. And she had posted on Nextdoor Facebook, can someone go out there and feed the dogs? I'm going to be in Third Ward feeding other dogs. I won't be able to make it out there this weekend. I said, sure, I'll go. So I loaded up my kids and we went out there, and it was kind of funny because they, you know, at this point they're like, oh God, Mom, do we have to go again?
We're doing it right.
I'm like, come on, it won't take long. We'll just go feed the dogs. And I got out there, and there's 3 dogs. It's Clyde, Chloe, and Jules. We called them the 3 Musketeers because they were the ones that made us decide. When I got out there that day, Clyde was sitting under a willow tree.
Oh.
And so that's where the name.
It's beautiful. So you have kids. Are they involved in this? Do they, rather than just tagging along, are they into it too? Is this like a family thing?
They're probably sick of dogs. Okay. We got 6 at the house.
Oh, wow.
And we have to do rotations because one would kill the other one.
Oh, that's fun.
So, yeah, it's a lot of work.
But they rotate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not fun at all. It's not fun. And we thought, oh, well, we'll do this for a little while. We'll find a place for Ollie, and then we won't have to do rotations anymore. We've been doing it for 2 years. Wow. I don't think we're ever going to find a place for Ollie. Yeah. He's just got too many triggers. He's got too many triggers. So, but the kids, yes, they, it started where I would get Ryan to go up and help with the dogs. And he was so good at it because it's hard. People don't understand. People say, well, just get volunteers to come. Well, okay, you got dogs that are crate reactive. Yeah. You got barrier reactive dogs. You got dogs that don't like certain people. Some don't like men. Some don't like women. Some don't like kids. Some don't like other dogs. So it gets to be pretty dangerous. You got dog fights. You don't want people getting bit. So it's not that easy. Right. It's not that easy at all. So, but he was good. He came in. The dogs did fine with him. So it's hard. You could probably count on 2 hands at the most the amount of people that you can have in there comfortably and not worry about whether they're going to be safe. Right. Because the dogs love them. But the other volunteers we keep in the front of the building, and we bring the dogs out to them. It works better. But he actually ended up going and working for a behavioralist.
Look at that.
He started with us, and now he's getting paid working with a behavioralist, Trey, who I love, with Trey Clark's Doghouse, which is right here over by the Academy on 59. Okay. And he works for him now full time.
Look at that. He loves it. In his blood.
He does. He loves it. He wants to become a behavioralist. So,
well, tell him to call me because that's what I am.
But my other son was looking at veterinary medicine and then decided to go into regular medical.
Human
medicine. I don't think, but we're now starting to train him at our facility to work with the dogs so that we have him as a volunteer. He needs it for high school anyway.
Yeah, true. I mean, I love that
You got to have it.
You got it. And I love that it's a family thing. And I want to go back to what you mentioned there about how it's, people just say find a volunteer, because you have to kind of step back, especially in Houston, and look at the landscape of animal welfare. How many organizations, Houston Pet Set, we fund organizations. Last year, we granted to 68. This year, I think we're aiming for 75. And that's just a tiny portion of the groups out there doing the work. And it sort of feels like now I saw you do pull animals from euthanasia lists at the local shelters and
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Any shelter, anywhere.
And,
Corpus Christi,
oh,
Pasadena.
Wow.
If we get a foster, and I talk with them and I feel like they're rock solid enough that I don't have to worry they're going to call me a week later to come pick up the dog.
Right.
We get those.
Yeah.
Then I'll pull it anywhere. I don't care what state you're in.
Wow. So let me ask you this then, because this is something at Houston Pet Set that we've been faced with a lot and that we've had conversations actually here on this podcast about. You are doing the work that we are paying our taxes to the city and the county to do.
Yeah, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
And it's not, we work with the city and the county because they are underwater too. And I actually, on my way here, listening to NPR, there was an animal welfare group, a local shelter actually, that said, we're now waiving adoption fees because we can't get animals out the door fast enough. And I know you probably feel the same way. It just feels like there are Band-Aids, right? Band-Aids being put on all of these different, right.
All these dogs are going to come back. So if they can't pay a $75 adoption fee and they're going because it's $4, they're either going to end up in someone's backyard, tied to a tree, tied to a pole, or returned. They get returned all the time. And they most of the time come from those free adoption days or low-cost adoption days.
Right.
Or they get them in, hey, perfect for dog fighting, right? Dog bait, stuff like that. If they don't, get them off Craigslist for free, which should be illegal to even post them for free.
Well, that's a conversation for a different day, right? So in your views, from what you have seen at the shelters, in the foster world, everything that you're working with, where is the fix? I know there's not a silver bullet. There's not one thing that we can do to solve this problem, but where do you find your success?
There's got to be, we got to have spay and neuter laws. That's not going to fix it all, but it's a start.
Right.
And there's too many. There's too many dogs. We can't keep up. It's like we'll see a list posted at BARK and if they would just slow down on the killing, especially when they have room, that's the most frustrating part.
Sure.
Puppies, mamas, they're just killing them all everywhere, all the shelters. But, if spay and neuter would make a huge difference, a huge difference. It definitely wouldn't fix it all because you got backyard breeders.
Sure.
But there should be fines. And
and the enforcement of the laws, right? Like
they're not enforced.
Right. If there's a law on the books, that's fantastic. But if nobody's doing anything about it, then you and I are going to still end up on the street picking up these animals who have nowhere else to go.
Well, just like everybody got excited. There's now a chain law, no more tethering and chaining the dogs. I can drive anywhere and take a picture of a dog trained and send it to you.
Right.
And we report them, but nothing's done. Or they'll take them off and then, they wait a while and then they just put them back on.
Yeah. And it also feels like there's an education element that's missing and simply finding somebody or coming in and taking their dog doesn't stop the problem from happening again unless you understand why you shouldn't chain or tether a dog or leave them outside 24/7, especially
in the sun with no shade, no food, no water, or in a crate in the sun where the black of the crate at the bottom is just
boiling.
Yeah.
Do you have the opportunity to talk to people in the field and educate and work with them? Is that something you wish you had more time to do? Because I do.
Yeah, I actually do. When I'm out there, Tammy and I will go driving through some of the lower income areas because then that is where you see it more, Actually, Sunnyside is an area we've started kind of targeting, and her and I will go out there and drive. And I remember there was this one, and see, that's another problem though. I'm Hispanic and yet I don't remember how to speak Spanish. Public school does that to you.
Right.
So, But there was a man out there with his dog, and it was tied to a pole in his driveway. And yes, he had a dog house it could go into, but if it's 100 degrees outside, the dog doesn't want to go in there. So the other option is sitting in the sun.
Right.
So then, and I tried talking to him and explaining there was a law, but there's that language barrier.
Sure.
So you get a lot of that in the lower income areas is a language barrier.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know that's one thing. There are groups out there like Corridor Rescue, like Barrio Dogs, who are trying to fill that gap. And then when there are organizations like yours who will take those animals in and care for them and find an outcome for them, we're all working together to do the job that maybe we shouldn't have to do, but we're doing it anyway. And it takes teamwork to get it all done.
Yeah. And another real frustrating thing, it's funny because Tammy had just texted me and she goes, hey, are they going to spay that dog before we pull it? We've gotten 3 dogs from shelters and they're not spaying and neutering. This is Houston. I mean, there is no reason those dogs should be leaving the shelters without being fixed first. And I could have sworn they had passed a law that even before they released the dogs, I need to look up on that, but I thought they recently said that the shelters were going to have to, even before releasing them to a rescue,
right?
That they have to be fixed.
I feel like there's something there.
There's something I need to go back and read on that. But regardless, we shouldn't be having to fix our dogs. I mean, they're getting paid. Our tax money's going there,
right?
And then we're raising money, and now we're fixing the dog,
right? Right. Well, I think the more people, hopefully, if someone has listened to this and has been on the fence about maybe taking that next step to get more involved or to start their own rescue, or at the very least to get involved with a rescue that's already on the ground doing it, maybe this is the shove they needed. But in the meantime, it's comforting to know that Waiting Under the Willow Foundation is there serving these animals, working with these people, these shelters and rescues, and thank you for that. And thank you for upending your life, essentially, to start this endeavor. It was obviously a labor of love. And
yeah, it is. And it's hard. It's hard to turn away all the ones that we have to turn away because there's just not enough fosters.
Yeah.
And there's not enough funding.
So foster and donate.
Yes.
If you're listening and watching,
yes.
Foster, actually, do me a favor. Give us your website or your Facebook or whatever so people can find you.
Yeah, so it's Waiting Under the Willow Foundation or WUWF Rescue, WUWF Rescue.org. Okay. My phone number's on there. Tammy's phone number's on there. So there's no way you can't reach us. If we don't answer the cell phone, text us.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
I try to
amazing.
get back to everybody in the evening.
Okay.
Every now and then it'll be the next day, but we're
Awesome.
usually pretty good about reaching back out.
Awesome. Angelique, thank you so much. This has been fabulous. I'm glad to know more about your rescue, and I hope that our listeners and our friends will check you guys out and maybe foster for you. I know there are fosters who listen and watch this. So.
Yeah, and we need volunteers.
And
We're right here,
yeah.
Southwest Houston by Meyerland. Anybody that can come up and spend 30 minutes walking a dog or playing in the yard. They love to play fetch, some of them.
That sounds delightful.
There's just not enough people to do it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this will change that.
That would be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been Conversations for the Animals. I am Lisa Tynan. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks.